Chapter 20 Mediums. Day after day, my stay in the taiga goes by, and I can't find any particular activity for myself. Anastasia keeps running off, still tending to her own affairs. Our son, even though he is still quite little, splendidly copes with everything through the help of his nannies of the wild. It's a strange turn of events, as though humanity has thought up so many activities simply to give it the feeling that it is doing something. And out here, all you do is go for walks in the forest and think. So I take walks, and I think. Now I've come once more to the lake and sat myself down in my favorite spot by the shore, underneath a cedar tree. And I'm looking at the bag of readers' letters, and thinking I'd better not forget to have Anastasia answer all these questions. As soon as she approaches, I ask her, "You see these letters from readers? I've sorted them all out according to the type of question. There are questions on child-raising, various suggestions, questions on different religions, on Russia's purpose, on war. There's poetry and greetings, letters from mediums. You see?" "Yes, I see." And the first thing I did was to ask Anastasia about mediums. There are people who say, in fact, they write in their letters, that they communicate with extraterrestrial civilizations, with certain individuals in the past, that they hear different voices, and some record what they hear. They say that they record various kinds of information communicated to them by the Supreme Mind of the universe. We have books published in huge print runs on channeling, contact through mediums. Blavatsky, for example. There's a woman writer by that name who has written quite a few weighty tomes along this line. And then there's the Roerichs, known to a lot of people. They've written books and produced paintings which have been exhibited in many different countries where their books are read. Other people are afraid, terrified when they hear voices. Look, here's a letter from a little girl in the town of Quincy. She has a voice telling her he's a wise teacher and she should listen to him, and the girl is afraid and is asking for help. Are people like this really communicating with someone, and how does it happen? Tell me, Vladimir, what do you consider to be an extraterrestrial civilization? Well, I would say the population of some other planet or star or something invisible and existing quite close by. If people can communicate with individuals who lived in the past, it must mean these individuals reside in some kind of invisible world. Every man, Vladimir, is so constructed that he has access to the whole universe, both visible and invisible. Every man may communicate with anything or anyone he wishes. It works pretty much the same as through your radio receiver. There are so many situations broadcasting all kinds of information, out of which the owner of the receiver must select what he is going to listen to. Man is both the receiver and its owner, and which source finds a reception in his thought depends on his conscious awareness, his feelings, and purity. As a rule, a man receives directly information he is able to make sense of, understand, and use. And all this must take place calmly and quietly, without intrusive attention drawn to greatness. When voices draw attention to their own greatness, they try to appeal to one's sense of self-importance. Look here, I'm so great, yet I have chosen only you out of everyone. You shall be my pupil, and you too shall be greater than everyone else. As a rule, this is what you would hear from inferior, soulless creatures. They are not granted a bodily existence, so they attempt to oppress the human soul and occupy another's body. They act on man's mind, his sense of self-importance, and his fear of the unknown. But how do we save ourselves from such creatures? Many readers are asking. It's really very simple. They themselves are cowards, rather primitive cowards at that. You need to give them an ultimatum. Get out of here, and if you do not, I shall burn you with my thought. They know very well that man's thought is many times stronger than they are. Another thing you can do is chew a celandine leaf, but first you should put the leaf in the palm of your hand and say to it mentally, "Save me, little leaf, from all impurities." But what if a whole lot of people want to talk with the same source? What happens then? See, a lot of people say in their letters that they talk with you. Is that true? And if so, how do you manage to answer everyone? After all, there are a lot of them, and they all claim that they talk directly with you and you answer them. Every individual produces their own thoughts, and everyone's thoughts still exist. They do not simply disappear into oblivion. What you and I think also exists in space in my dreams. My dreams is there too, and my thoughts, and everyone who wishes to can hear them. Many can hear them at the same time. It is only a question of the degree of distortion the receiver is capable of permitting. What do you mean by distortion? What determines that? It is determined by the purity of the receiver. Imagine, Vladimir, that you are hearing someone speak over an ordinary receiver, but instead of distinct words you get interference, static, and you do not know what some of the words are, and the concepts behind them are unclear. What do you do then? Well, then I try to guess what words might fit into the gaps where I don't understand. Exactly. But a word you put in might change or detract from the original thought being conveyed by the sounds, or it could even turn it in the opposite direction. Only one's own purity is capable of hearing truth undistorted. And if they are insufficient, your tuning and your purity, that is, then you should not blame the source. In your material life, in your world, there are a multitude of sources of sound on all sides, all of them claiming to be truth and trying to control your mind and will, to make your life suit their own purposes. But you are free to listen to them or not to listen. You are free to decide with nobody to blame but yourself. Let's say that's true, I observed, but what if there is some kind of question for which there is no answer in all the universe? Let's say you're asked a question and you don't have any thoughts out in space on that subject to respond to the question, and you yourself haven't produced any thoughts in response to that question. What then? A question for which there is no answer in the universe will immediately speed up the evolution of everything. Like a flashbulb, bright and clear as a bell, it will reach into the corners of the universe and everything will be set in motion as well. There will be a rejoining of opposites, an answer will be born, and it will be heard. So that means right off you'll hear the question and glimpse the one who's asking it? Just like everyone else, I too shall hear it right off. But unfortunately, for centuries, people have been asking the same questions over and over again. There are answers to them, but not many people who hear those answers. But how can I tell what's what? How can I tell when the source is communicating truth, or rather when truth is being perceived without interference? After all, there's no crackling sound in one's ears when we hear something externally, and you say that the answer is born, as it were, in the form of our own thoughts we produce ourselves. But what helps us tell whether the voice we hear is a good voice or no? After all, everyone that hears voices thinks they are listening only to the Supreme Mind. It is when you hear more than just words, when suddenly there is a flash of feeling or emotion in the soul and tears of joy in your eyes, and when sensations of warmth and fragrances and sounds are born in you, when you feel within yourself the impulse or urge to co-create and a thirst for purification, you may be sure that you are clearly hearing the thoughts of light. When it is simply cold information that comes, an order or command, even one that talks about good, perhaps it seems wise, even very wise, and the originating source claims to be supreme and very powerful. Know this, it is not good that is hiding behind good, but an entity not accorded a place in perfection that is trying to persuade you to follow it for its own purposes. Chapter 21. Should we all go live in the forest? Anastasia, here's another issue. Some readers want to live the way you do in the taiga. Several are trying to come to see you and are asking directions. Others want to organize settlements in the taiga. And they are sending in their proposals to the Moscow Research Center as to how to do this. Besides, I've read that there are already settlements like this elsewhere in the world, where people leave their homes in the city and settle in communities in nature. This is happening in India, in America, and also here in Russia, in the Krasnoyarsk region, for example. And people are asking you the best way to realize their dreams. But why go to another place to live? What do you mean, why? People are leaving the dirty cities where the air quality is poor, where there's a lot of noise and bustle. They are moving to places that are clean and ecologically pure, so they can become purer themselves. But back there, where it has become dirty, who is to clean it up? Others? I don't know who, but is it so bad when man has the desire come to him to live in a clean place in nature? The desire is a good one. That is not the point. When a person who creates dirt around himself comes to a clean place, he pollutes that place with his very presence. You need to clean up the place you've been polluting first, thereby washing away your sins. So, everything starts with a cleanup, eh? And how do you suppose that's all going to happen? Conscious awareness is the point of departure for any venture. The aspirations of one's thoughts finds the most effective path, just like any stream in nature. It is all happening already in Russia today. Look closely, Vladimir. You will see that the factories with their smoking chimneys are not doing very well. That is not by chance. It did not simply happen that way all by itself. Another thing, there is less and less money for the nation's armed forces. But the main thing is that you have stopped treating as heroes people whom it would not be a sin to call vandals, people who have polluted the earth by their actions. There's no need to go live in the forest. The space of the forest will not be quick to accept newcomers, and will take a long time examining their motives, habits, and way of life. After all, the place where you were living, the place where you are living now, all that was once a forest too, planted by the Creator. And what has become of this beneficial oasis of paradise today? People who go live in the forest are no more significant, indeed they are less significant, than the Dachniks who plant gardens on desolate, abandoned land with their own hands. They are known and loved by every blade of grass on their plot, which endeavors to give back to them the warmth of the universe, and the true feelings are to be found in those who themselves have set up this oasis of paradise, giving embodiment to the good in their souls amidst the bustle and gloom of death. But what then will become of the cities? I queried. Who will maintain those in a state of normalcy? After all, everything in the cities will decompose into a void. Everything will decay and be destroyed. There should not be a sudden transition from one base to another. A gradual movement is needed, and it is already taking place. It is splendid, and it will be even more splendid in the future. Well, Anastasia, you are true to form. Just like before, all the Dachniks are still your idols. The only thing is, they hardly ever talk about spiritual things the way a lot of different religious organizations and communities do. Are words needed when their deeds are holy? Anastasia countered. Here are some more letters, I offered. One person has already sent me 5 letters. He claims that he hears voices and that his dowsing rod tells him you are summoning him to the taiga, and he is trying to get to you. He threatens me and goes to see Solntsev at the Moscow Research Center. He says we are concealing you from everyone and demands that we organize a trip for him to come and see you in the taiga. And he's not the only one. How would you answer him? I think you know these people are in love with you. They think they should be with you, doing good deeds together, and live together with you in the taiga. I would respond to everyone who is sincere, thank you for your love, but I have not invited anyone to the taiga. What would you do here? What could you contribute? If your intentions are good, let them be expressed right there where you are living. Let your love illuminate those living around you. Chapter 22. The Anastasia Centers. In cities in Russia and even abroad, I told Anastasia, people have already started organizing centers named after you. Let me read you just one example of the many letters my daughter Polina has been receiving. She herself has answered a number of them and sent others to me, but I can't possibly reply to them all. And there are some letters I'm not completely sure how to respond to. After all, there are people out there who think these centers represent some kind of sect. Just listen to this letter from one of the centers. How would you respond? I took one of the letters Polina had forwarded to me and read it to Anastasia in full. Here it is. Hello, Polina. I am a member of our school's Anastasia Ecological Creativity Center, Valery Anatolievich Karasyov. Our center is still quite young. It was set up on the 4th of December 1997 and is now in the process of getting established. Its genesis was facilitated by your father's book, for which we are all very grateful to him. Anastasia, like a ray of light in a dark realm, is now bringing together the creative forces of us adults and children who have not lost our creative capacities, with the aim of standing up for our honor and dignity. Such people as we aspire to bright ideals and believe that the happiness of Russia, our native land, is in our hands and our thoughts. We realize how right now the forces of darkness are pressing down upon her, and we are trying to help her as much as we are able. Teachers, school children, and their parents are all working together at our center. At the present time, we are introducing Anastasia and her ideas to kids and their parents with the help of classes and seminars, making use of your father's books and distributing them along with magazine articles. We are also trying to put together a collection of scientific accounts explaining Anastasia's abilities. We are aware of the challenges involved in the task of awakening man's conscious awareness in overcoming the inertia of human thinking, and so we are going about our activities with calmness and confidence. We have already made some interesting discoveries. Some people we have been in touch with look upon Anastasia as a beautiful fairy tale, while others tune into our work right from their very first reading of the book. There are also a few who are starting to spread rumors that Anastasia is just another sect, which makes us smile. But as it has been said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. The main thing is, we are so happy that Anastasia has brought us together in this rural region with its dying agricultural industries and its decaying state-run farm, whose managers have completely forgotten about people's needs, especially young people's needs. And this has all happened on the very spot where Mikhail Kalinin was born and the hugely successful Verkhnaya Troitsa state-run farm once flourished. Here at the Anastasia Center, located at the M.I. Kalinin Rural School, our Raduga program was initiated. It is designed to work out and put into practice creative solutions for the development of our native land, work education, and the moral upbringing of the rising generation to set up a basis for the manufacturing of ecologically clean agricultural products. Raduga also aims to set up a young people's cultural and ecological manufacturing cooperative under this name, Rus, which will include the Slavic Cultural Center, known as Lada, and an ecological manufacturing complex called ROD. This is the kind of program Anastasia helped us set up. Let unbelievers believe in their unbelief that we shall work on the bringing of our program to fruition, no matter how unrealizable it may appear to some people. Our goal is to allow our young people to feel the practical results of their creative forces. One aspect of the Raduga program involves getting to know our own country better, studying our native land's ancient history and the life and culture of our Slavic forebears. A long time ago, right near Verkhnaya Troitsa, the town of Medved was built, but hardly anything is known about it. It has literally been wiped off the face of the earth. Along the banks of the Medveditsa River may be found old Slavic burial mounds. We are wondering whether some of these have similar significance to that of the dolmens in Galenzik, since that was where the local Medved militia did battle with the Tatars and their golden horde. We need this information as we don't want to be neglectful of our past. We shall take steps to preserve whatever we can and do at least a partial restoration. That is our request, Polina, to Anastasia. In the spring, we shall start setting up a nursery to cultivate cedar seedlings. This will be possible thanks to one of our local residents, a forest warden by the name of Georgy Shaposnikov, who gave us this amazing gift. Our children's theater, headed by Tatiana, who comes from Siberia, will be putting on a play based on the Anastasia book. The kids are really fired up with the project. We would very much like the other centers and organizations Anastasia helped come into being to get in touch with us. May her divine lines of light join all our centers together throughout Russia. Mutual communication, even if just through letters, will increase our strength and enable us to find answers more quickly. Our postal address is as follows: Anastasia Ecological Creative Center, M.I. Kalinin School. The following is a gift from our school to all for whom Anastasia exists. Hear your orders, dear brothers. To help with Anastasia's world-happifying ideas, to head off disaster for good, and never repeat it, we should awaken at 6 in the morning so as not to find anything boring. And with smiles and sincere open hearts, we shall stretch out our arms to the stars and draw ourselves close to her side, to our mother dear as to our bride. Here I am, your own blood to embrace, and a sly smile creeps over our face. In an instant, not a moment beyond, we see Mother's own face respond. To you, Mother Nature, good morn, who with God the Father have borne strong warriors. Where would one find in the universe any more kind? O sister of Slavic blood true, so long we have waited for you. We all have been touched by your ray, your orders we now will obey. Dear brothers, your orders now here, at 6, like the book says, dark fear will flee from our forthright attack. 15 minutes it takes there and back. So that no threat will vex our dear sister, we must give this child our assistance. We answer to them after all. Then how can we not heed their call? We are quite used to lending our aid to break through the dark foe's blockade. Valerie, a Russian naval officer. I wish you success and all the best, Polina. We at the center shall be happy to receive any information you can give us about Anastasia. Please give our very best wishes to your father. Happy New Year. Well, Anastasia, what do you have to say about this letter? I can say that it shows marvelous aspirations of the human soul, but neither you nor I can take credit for that. It is beauty and the strength of their soul that alone are responsible. Their names would make an even worthier choice for naming the center. I grew up in the cradle of the Creator, while their soul has strived to brave the tortures of hell and has survived. For years, a string of hardships, deprivations, temptations, and commotions have tried as hard as they could to distort their realization of good. Their souls have been able to overcome it all. They are stronger than those who have cut themselves off from the world behind a stone wall. They're in the world and have enriched the world with their presence. They should be remembered in the center's name. If people plan to name all the centers after me, it will result in the formation of a cult, and that must not be. A personality or image cult always distracts man from the essential thing, from himself. Then what will be the result? I queried. There's Solntsev's center in Moscow and Larionovas in Galensik, and already I've heard people speak of an Anastasia division at the International Academy of Spiritual Development. How will people be able to find out with precision what these centers are all about? Intuition is a quality given the same to all, Vladimir, and a center's real essence and attraction is determined not by the name, it is the soul that should be able to feel one's actions. Now that's an interesting turn of things. Now I'll have to do some more thinking. You are quite an unconventional woman, Anastasia, and conversing with you makes thinking work not just for me, but for many others around too. And when is there time to relax? There's one more concrete question they ask of you. What kind of burial mounds are located there on the river, on the Medvitsa? There is no need to excavate the mounds. They have fulfilled their task, and people were born there who were the first to ask the most important question. What question? Think about it yourself, Vladimir, please, but I shall tell you this for now. You go show people like these the ways to make better contact with each other. You can do your part by noting their address in your book. Let all the letters, like bright rays, help them warm each other's hearts. The St. Petersburg poet Korotinsky gave you a hint a long time ago when he wrote, "This ray of love from heart to heart, with thread divine will gleam and glisten, make every soul from dust depart, and thirsting minds with heaven freshen." "Okay, I've got it," I said. I myself was going to publish both the letters and the poems readers have sent in. I wanted to keep them and release them in a volume of their own. I myself felt there was something deeper than usual in them, and I can make their addresses known through Moscow Center so that people may end up healing each other. My daughter Polina can also participate. She has been very good about taking care of the letters to date. You know, Anastasia, it might not be a bad idea if people from all over the world could carry on communication with each other. They will find people of like spirit and like mind. They can marry or at least become friends. They can start new common trends or spend their vacation together. Right, that's it. That's great. I'll get a selection of letters together and put them out as a collection. You know how our newspapers now offer a dating service. People place advertisements. Let's say they're looking to meet a potential marriage partner, and they give their height, their age, and the color of their eyes as though they were selecting a prize cow for breeding. But here, I wager it will be much better when people meet in spirit and start helping each other. Of course, a union in spirit is better, more solid indeed. Yes, of course, but there's just one problem. A problem? What is it? Chapter 23. Recreating Shambala. For some reason, it all happens like that in Novosibirsk. It just happens that most people who are critical of me and my book come from there. Indeed, that is the only place people criticize me. My first book is already being published in 3 foreign countries, and in many other contracts are being drawn up. But in Novosibirsk, all they do is curse it. My daughter Paulina is there. I can only imagine what she's going through. And as for a collection of readers' letters, they'll only say, "What new thing are you dangling in front of us now? Why don't you go back to your own business?" They did a program recently on Novosibirsk TV about the early entrepreneurs. I was included, and in the course of an interview with my daughter, they asked her about my absence from my business. Paulina tried to explain something about my spiritual interests, but they cut her off. "Just a little more time will go by," Anastasia replied, "and most residents of Novosibirsk will think highly of both you and the book. The best of the friends you had last year will come back, and the new friends will appear. In one of the city centers, a short way from the eternal flame, your friends, both old and new, will plant a brand new avenue and name it Cedar Alley." "Sure they will. Come on now. You'd better think again. A cedar alley near the eternal flame? You're really quite the schemer, Anastasia. Dearest little dreamer of mine." She jumped up from the grass and stood on her knees, beaming all over, throwing up her hands, and all of a sudden whispering, "Thank you for those words so fine. Dearest mine, that is me you were talking about here, Vladimir, right? Have I indeed become dear to you? It's more just a figure of speech we use, but still your dream is very beautiful. And it will come about, believe me it will, just as I dreamt it. That is how it will turn out. But nothing comes about in the world all by itself. Now if you could attempt to create some kind of miracle in Novosibirsk, no, not just any old miracle. What's the point of a miracle which leaves people neither hot nor cold? If only you could grant, say, that every resident of the city became just a little bit richer and healthier. In other words, so that everyone in Novosibirsk could be happier. Now for that, perhaps people might plant an alley. But I have an idea that all your forces of light, even all told, would still not be able to bring that about, Anastasia. That is not within the grasp of anyone's might. You are right, Vladimir. Nobody has power over man's will. Man must still work out his own plan, his own destiny, whether it be for joy or sorrow. Each one's conscious awareness will point out the path to follow. But who then is toying with our awareness? Who is impeding us from choosing the path leading out of sorrow to joy? Why grope for causes outside your own self, Vladimir? In accusing others, what do you hope to change? A feeling so great has arisen within you to create something good for the citizens of your city. I find it very appealing. It is a thought I myself must dream with. Ah, great indeed. I have it. Yes, that is it. All the people of Novosibirsk will go down in the history of our nation, for it is there that a generation of happy people will be born. Everyone living there today will become happier right away. Let us think together what we can say to the people of this whole city you are concerned about, how we can learn to break through to each one's heart and soul. And what do you want to say to each one of them? That together they will be able to recreate Shambala. And just what might this Shambala be? Elaborate more precisely. People have been looking for eons for a holy place on the earth. They think that it is called Shambala, that anyone there can link with the wisdom of the universe. But no one has ever been able to find Shambala. Those seekers have galloped through many foreign nations looking for it, and find it they will not. As long as they look for it therein. Forever since time began, Shambhala has been recreated, both within each one and in its outward manifestation, by man. More specifically, I interjected, what must be done to establish a link with the wise universe and to make one happier? Show me a step we can take here that lies not within ourselves. All that's within ourselves is somehow unclear. Show me some outward things we need to sow, build, or break. Let each resident of the big city obtain a little nut from a resinous cedar cone, place it in his mouth, and hold it there in his saliva. Let him plant it in a little pot of earth in his home, and water the earth every day. Before watering, he should put his fingers in the water, and should be in a good humor. And the main thing, he should be wishing good for himself, his children, and descendants, and a conscious awareness of God. This he should do every day. When the seed sprouts, one may share with it one's innermost thoughts. On summer days and frost-free nights, the little pot with the little sprout should be placed outdoors among other plants growing in the ground, so that it can commune with the stars, the sun, and the moon, so that it may know the rain and the breeze and the spirit of the blades of grass all round, and then come back again to its friends, its parents. This may transpire many times now, while the desire is there and time allows. The seedling will grow and develop through the ages. A cedar, after all, will live more than 500 years, beget offspring, and tell the young cedars about the soul of those that cultivated them. When the sprout has grown in the home to about 30 centimeters, it may be planted in the earth in early spring. Have the city authorities allot at least 1 square meter of earth for their sprout to all those that have no plot of their own. And these sprouts will be planted around the edge of the city, among the houses and in the center of the busy squares. Let each person take care of his sprout and help each other in this. From the ends of the earth, people will come to this city to see and touch the sacred trees and exchange at least a word or two with these happy people. Why would people suddenly start coming here from all over the world? I asked. Now, if only you could discover some kind of new sacred sites in Novosibirsk, dolmens, for example, as in Galenzik. You told about the dolmens of Galenzik, and now seekers from various Russian cities and other lands are flocking to see them. I notice that every day now they have tours to see the dolmens. And every year in September, readers from many places come together for a conference. Artists organize exhibits, and they record things on video. And now, surprise of surprises, trees are growing in the city. Well, not actual trees yet, just cedar seedlings. These will not be ordinary seedlings, Anastasia pointed out. They are like the ringing cedars. Warmed by the kindness of human hearts, having touched the human soul, they will take in the best rays of the universe has to offer and start giving them back to man. And man and the earth together will begin to shine once more in that place, now and forever. And there will come a new conscious awareness, and discoveries of universal importance will go forth from such people through the whole earth. Do you know what a sacred site is? Believe me, Vladimir, you will come to know one in your own native city. That's all very tempting, of course, I said. But you know, Anastasia, there's hardly anyone that's going to take your word alone. There's no way this can be known from our history books, and it's not something our modern science is going to condone. Now, if there were just something a little more influential than you, someone better known, with the proper credentials, who could show this. The Quran makes some wise statements on the significance of trees. Buddha, too, got this wisdom when he went off for a long time into the woods. Tell me, Vladimir, you have been reading the Bible, have you not? Yes, I have. What of it? The Old Testament notes that long before Jesus Christ's birth, the wisest of the earth's rulers, King Solomon, used cedar wood to build a temple to the glory of God and a house for himself. He hired a workforce of considerable size to cut down the cedars and bring them in from far-off places. King Solomon was very wise, as the Bible says, and the Song of Songs he wrote has come down to us in an oasis of wisdom in the present day. The Old Testament also tells us that toward the end of his days, the wives of his harem from various lands and various faiths began leading Solomon away from his faith. He came to know a variety of faiths, and do you know which one satisfied him the most? Which one? The one where trees are not only cut down but also planted. And on his deathbed, this wise king comprehended that his temporal house and temple would be destroyed, that his descendants would not be able to maintain their power or greatness. It would mean that the might of his kingdom would lapse into a void, and it all came about exactly as he had foreseen. And to this day his soul is dismayed by the great mistake he had made. And the wise king realized that it was impossible to do a deed pleasing to God, and at the same time take the life of any of his own creations. The torment that affected his soul and many human souls extends through the whole millennia, as they watch one mistake making itself again and again over thousands of years. But the mistake can be corrected, and then a splendid dawn will once more rise over the world. News of your city will spread through all channels of the earth and the universe. Of all the miracles on earth that have come down to us today, nobody has ever heard of a city where every citizen thereof cultivated trees such as these this way, with extraordinary love and tenderness of soul, thereby transforming their own city of stones into a true living temple of the universe, into a space of love. For this a whole conscious awareness is needed of the divine. So may it rise up so fine and good within each one's heart, and do its destined part to help the universe be understood. Perhaps, just perhaps, there is a germ of rationality in what you've said, Anastasia, and I shall perhaps write about it so that people may determine everything for themselves. But I must warn you that you're missing something here. You spend all your time carrying on about trees, but, well, how can I put this? You'll never be able to get married officially. You don't have the documents you need to take your turn at the civil registry office. And here you're talking with such earnestness about trees. As it is, the church clerks consider you a heathen, and when I write these words of yours, they won't even let you in the nearest church, and certainly will not officially wed you to anyone. Vladimir, do write down my words. Let people read them and decide for themselves. And do not be ashamed of these words. Humble your pride. Not everyone, perhaps, will understand the meaning of these words, and not right away. But in your city there are many scholars who will supplement in scientific words what I have begun to say, if you believe that people will understand them better than my own words. And then there are the journalists. Do not be angry over their criticism. Not all the journalists have had their turn. And if the time should ever come for me to wed, believe me, Vladimir, one will be found to hold the crown above my head. And what if people create something like that in another city other than Novosibirsk? Any city can be reborn. For achievements like these to be fulfilled, a different conscious awareness in people must be instilled. And when it appears, the face of cities will be changed for years to come. But among them there will be a first to perceive the grace. Blessed Anastasia, you are so naive, it seems. You never have anything but bright dreams. Well, okay, I shall write what you say, so that people will know these things too. Thank you, I do not know how else to thank you. What for? That's not hard to write. You can add something more if you like. I ask you, people, do not just read what I say as empty words. You need to make sense of what you have heard. Here you are, Anastasia, answering questions from readers, and you speak of man as a creator, but you're a woman. Don't you see? You know what the leader of one of our religious denominations said about women. What did he say? He said that women are incapable of creating. Their proclivity, then, is to look beautiful and inspire men to various achievements and creativity, but it is only men that do the actual creating. But you, Vladimir, do you agree with statements such as those? One could agree with them, I suppose. You know about statistics, which is an impartial science. Well, if you go by statistics, you come up with this. What? Andrei Rublev, Surikov, Vasnetsov, Rembrandt, and other famous artists were all men. There simply aren't any women among them. At least I don't recall any women artists. The inventors of the airplane, the car, the electric engine, the space satellite, the rocket ship, they're all men, too. Right now, one of the most popular art forms in our society is the cinema, and in order to produce a film, you need a director. And he is one of the most important figures in filmmaking, and once again, all the best film directors are men. Occasionally you find a woman director, but they're very rare. And unlike men, they don't produce any really outstanding films. And the best musicians are invariably men, just like the philosophers, both the ones we know from antiquity and in our modern world. They're men too. But why are you telling me all this, Vladimir? Well, I just had a thought. Maybe it'll help you. What is your thought? Could you share it with me? It's like this. Maybe you, Anastasia, should concentrate more on some kind of home improvement here, along with child raising, and not burden yourself down so much with concerns about the outside world and other people. After all, men can take care of everything there. Men alone, according to statistics, which is an exact and impartial science. Historically, too, all the important things have been done by men. And we can't get away from history. Do you understand how irrefutable this argument is? I understand what you are saying, Vladimir. Just don't you go and get upset now. Better understand everything right off the bat so that you can busy yourself with your own affairs and not with those that others can do better. You're trying to change the world for the better, but only men can do that, you see. They are better inventors and better creators than women. Do you agree? Vladimir, I agree that men appear outwardly to be creators, if you look at it from a material viewpoint, that is. What do you mean, outwardly? In what other viewpoint can you look at irrefutable facts? You'd better not get philosophizing here. Just tell me out and out. Can you at least create something? For example, can you at least do embroidery? Can you embroider a beautiful design on a piece of fabric with a needle? I would not be able to embroider a design with a needle. Why not? I would not be able to take a needle in my hands. A needle has been manufactured out of the depths of living nature. What is the point of creating something if it involves first destroying a great living creation? Think, Vladimir, when a demented person takes a work by one of the great masters, as you said, and rends the canvas to pieces to cut out rabbit figures, would you call his actions creativity, making an allowance for his dementia? But if another person, this one rational and aware of what is around him, did the same thing, then his actions would be defined in quite a different way. How? Think about it. For example, his actions could be termed vandalism. Come on now. You're not serious. Does that mean that all creators and artists are vandals? They're artists and creators in their perception of the world as seen on their own level. But if their consciousness should rise to a higher level, they would create by entirely different means. And what different means would these be? The means by which the Creator has created all in His own impulse of inspiration, and the power to perfect His creations and to make new creations of their own is something He has given to man alone. And just how did the Creator create everything, and what instrument did He give to man for creativity? Thought is the chief instrument of the great Creator, and thought has been given to man. Creations are true when thought is brought to fruition through the soul and intuition and feelings, And the main factor here is, and will always be, the purity of one's awareness. Look how the little flowers thrive at our feet. Their splendid shapes and colors, tints are constantly changing, in creation alive. These are something you can perfect with your thought. Concentrate, try to change them, give them a better look. What look, for example? Indulge your fantasy, Vladimir. Well, I can at least do that. Let this chamomile here, for example, take on one red petal, and the next one stay as it is, so the alternation will make it better, more cheery. And all at once Anastasia fell stock still. She began concentrating her gaze on the white chamomile. And you know, the chamomile, slowly and quietly as could be, but still, right before my eyes, began to change its colors. There they were, alternating. First there was a red petal, then a white, then a red one again. At first the red petal were barely noticeable. Then the color became stronger, and the red hue kept getting brighter and brighter until finally they were simply blazing with a shining red radiance. You see how it happened, Vladimir? You came up with the idea, and I created it all with my thought. What are you saying, Anastasia, that everybody can do this? Yes, and they are doing it, but they use material for this, which they first slay, and dead material can only deteriorate. So mankind, through the ages, has struggled to stop his creations from deterioration, even as human thought becomes more and more preoccupied with just plain rot, and man has no time to think about what constitutes genuine creation. Everything is preceded first by thought. It is only with time that it gets embodied in matter or the changing strands of the social order. But whether they are creating for better or for worse, they do not immediately understand. Look how you wanted to change the color of the chamomile's petals. I changed them with my thought. The chamomile obeyed man's thought. But look closely now. Did you really think up something better, more perfect than it already was? In my view, it's splashier and more cheerful. But why are you not excited when you talk about the new creation? I don't know, maybe it's because there's still something lacking. Maybe some kind of colors, I can't tell right now. The colors have come into conflict with each other. The tenderest tints have paled for the sake of splashiness. A loud splashiness fails to evoke calm and tender feelings. Okay, I tried to change everything back the way it was. It is not I that shall do that, but the chamomile itself will be able to. The red will fall away. After all, we do not slay the chamomile, it is alive. Nature itself will bring everything back to the state of harmony where it can thrive. So, in your view, Anastasia, we are all men, ignorant vandals, and women are the creators? All men and women are one. In each of them, two principles merge into a single one. And in the creativity they feel, they are inseparable. Earthly existence is there for them both. But how can that be? I don't understand. I, for example, am only a male of the species. And what do you consist of, Vladimir? The flesh of a male and the flesh of a female have merged into one. They are united in you. Similarly, the spirit of two has merged into one spirit within you. Then why do people go and state in treaties exactly what a woman is and what a man is, and state which of them is stronger and more important? Think about it yourself. Who would you want to, and for what purpose, replace your awareness, your consciousness, which the Creator gave to everyone in the beginning with His own dogma? Well, maybe the Creator just happened to give someone more than others, and this person, as a teacher, is striving to share His wisdom and awareness with everyone. Every little sprout on the earth, the seed of a birch tree, a cedar tree, or a flower, is filled with the knowledge of the Creator. So how could the thought come to you that the Creator could deign to withhold something from His supreme creation? What could be more insulting for a father than a complaint like that? What are you talking about? I'm not complaining about anyone. I was just consulting with myself, thinking out loud.